Starship will not reach Mars just because it is the biggest rocket ever built. The real key is something much less flashy, but far more important: orbital refueling. If SpaceX cannot refuel Starship in orbit, the Mars plan becomes extremely difficult. But if SpaceX can make it work, Starship changes from a powerful rocket into a true deep space transportation system. Hi everyone, Ken here. Today, I want to talk about one of the most important technologies behind SpaceX's Mars plan, not the engines, not the heat shield, not even the launch tower. I'm talking about orbital refueling. This may sound like a technical detail, but from an investor's point of view, it could be one of the biggest gates that determines the future value of Starship. Because the real question is not simply, can Starship fly? The bigger question is, can Starship carry massive cargo to the Moon, Mars, and beyond? And for that, refueling in orbit is absolutely essential. Let's start with the basic problem. Starship is huge, but Earth's gravity is also huge. When Starship launches from Earth, it uses a massive amount of propellant just to reach low Earth orbit. So, by the time it gets into orbit, it may not have enough fuel left to carry heavy payloads all the way to the Moon or Mars. That is the key point. Getting to orbit is only the first step. For a Mars mission, SpaceX needs Starship to leave Earth orbit with enough fuel to travel much farther, and that is why orbital refueling matters. The idea is simple. First, SpaceX launches a mission Starship into low Earth orbit. Then, SpaceX launches tanker versions of Starship. These tankers meet the mission Starship in orbit, dock with it, and transfer liquid methane and liquid oxygen. This may need to happen multiple times before the mission Starship is fully ready to depart for deep space. In simple terms, SpaceX is trying to create a gas station in space. But of course, this is not a normal gas station. Everything is moving at orbital speed, the propellants are extremely cold, and the entire operation must be done safely in space. Now, why is this so important for Mars? Because going to Mars is not just about sending one spacecraft. If SpaceX really wants to build a long-term presence on Mars, it needs to send enormous amounts of cargo, habitats, food, water, oxygen systems, power systems, communication equipment, rovers, construction machines, and eventually the basic infrastructure for a Mars base. This is not a small mission. This is a logistics challenge, and that is the way I think investors should look at Starship. Starship is not just a rocket. If the system works, Starship becomes a logistics platform for space. But this is also where the difficulty becomes very serious. The fuel Starship uses is liquid methane and liquid oxygen. These propellants must stay extremely cold. In space, heat from the sun and from the spacecraft itself can cause the fuel to warm up and evaporate. This is called boil-off. If too much propellant is lost, the entire mission becomes less efficient. And there is another problem. In microgravity, liquids do not behave the way they do on Earth. Fuel does not simply sit at the bottom of the tank. It can float, move around, and become difficult to control. So SpaceX has to manage pressure, temperature, flow, docking, and safety all at the same time. That is why orbital refueling is not just another Starship feature. It is one of the hardest engineering challenges in the entire Mars plan. This is also why the 2026 demonstration is so important. If SpaceX can prove meaningful propellant transfer between Starships in orbit, the entire Starship program moves to a new level. At that point, Starship is no longer just a reusable launch vehicle. It starts becoming a deep space transportation system. And this matters not only for Mars, it also matters for NASA's Artemis program. Starship HLS is expected to play a major role as a lunar lander, and that mission is also connected to orbital refueling. So if refueling is delayed, it could affect the moon timeline as well. But if it succeeds, it strengthens SpaceX's position in lunar missions, Mars missions, and future government contracts. From an investor's point of view, this is where things get interesting. SpaceX is private, so we cannot invest in it directly in the same way we invest in Tesla. But many Tesla investors still watch SpaceX closely because both companies are deeply connected through Elon Musk's execution style. The pattern is very similar. Set an impossible goal, test aggressively, fail in public, collect data, improve quickly, then scale. That is what Tesla did with electric vehicles, and that is what SpaceX is doing with Starship. The market often focuses on the explosion, the delay, or the headline, but long-term investors should focus on the learning curve. Is SpaceX getting closer to a repeatable system? That is the real question. If orbital refueling works, the potential impact is huge. Starship could launch larger Starlink satellites more efficiently. It could support more ambitious NASA missions. It could open the door to commercial deep space transportation, and in the long run, it could make Mars cargo missions much more realistic. This is why I believe orbital refueling is the gatekeeper for the Mars plan. Without it, Mars remains extremely difficult. With it, Mars starts to look less like science fiction and more like a massive logistics problem. And logistics problems can be solved step by step. So, today's takeaway is simple. The future of Starship is not only about launch power. It is about what happens after Starship reaches orbit. Can SpaceX refuel it? Can multiple Starships work together? Can they transfer hundreds of tons of propellant safely in space? If the answer becomes yes, then Starship's value changes dramatically. It becomes the foundation of a new space transportation network. As a long-term investor, I would not judge this story by one test flight or one delay. I would watch whether SpaceX is building the infrastructure layer for the next era of space. Orbital refueling may not sound as exciting as a Mars landing, but without it, the Mars plan does not really work. That is why I think this is one of the most important technologies to watch in 2026. What do you think? If SpaceX successfully demonstrates orbital refueling, how much closer does Mars become? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this analysis helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. I cover Tesla, SpaceX, AI, and the future of technology every day. Thanks for watching, and let's keep looking ahead to life in the future. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to introduce myself. I drive a Tesla Model Y, and at home, I've installed a Tesla Powerwall, so I actually charge my car with solar energy. I truly believe Tesla is shaping the future, and that's why I share the latest news and insights here on this channel. I'm from Japan, but I want to connect with Tesla fans all around the world. That's why I also create an English version of my videos. YouTube now lets you switch the audio into your own language, so you can enjoy it in whatever language you prefer. Most of all, I'd love to connect with Tesla fans everywhere so we can support Tesla together. I also share updates on X, so feel free to follow me there and let's connect. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.